Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and of course, tonight we are joined by a group of great guys, and we even have a special guest tonight. But let me go ahead and start out by introducing to you none other than the one, the only Big B. How is it going?
How you doing, guys? I'm doing great. Can't wait to talk about this week in wrestling, AEW, and our big topic on the Canon episode for Darkside.
All right, and then, of course, let me introduce to you the one, the only, the man who runs TRC. He is part of the Brew Bros. Welcome in, Mr. Will Hudson. How you doing tonight, my man?
Hey, Ace, man, I'm doing great. Huge shout out to Big B. And also really looking forward to seeing the phenomenal figures tonight. Got a lot of great stuff to talk about. The Canyon episode was definitely entertaining. And, this week's history lesson is going to be a very patriotic one. So a lot of great stuff going on tonight, guys.
All right. And then, of course, our special guest tonight, we definitely want to welcome in. He owns the Phenomenal Figures. He creates his own action figures. Welcome in, Mr. Jaron Peel. So, Jaron, how's it going tonight?
Pretty good. Yeah. We're all
right,
set. Yeah, you can go.
All right. Yeah, I was going to say, go ahead. The floor is yours. So anything you want to talk about, your action figures or, whatever, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh man, I'm having some technical difficulties again.
You hear us?
Yeah.
Are you good?
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Can you repeat that last thing again?
Yeah. So I'll start out with the question for you is, how did you get into making these?
Basically, I was watching a couple of YouTubers. I believe the first one was BEW Animation on YouTube, and it's on pretty much any platform or social media platform. Just saw the stuff he did, all the tutorials and walkthroughs that he did, and just kind of inspired me to do that. And from there, I did a couple WWE action figures, and then I believe in 2017, I went to my first Under the Big Top show, a show that Mitch Paradise does. He's a Minnesota wrestler, and then Mitch Paradise just kind of inspired me to just start making wrestlers, and this was the very first figure that I did. So, yeah.
All right, so Will, I'm gonna go to you. Do you have any questions for Jaron?
More of a comment than a question, man.
Yeah, what's my first stuff?
They look incredible. I'm really looking forward to seeing maybe some pictures posted on the Coast to Coast Network page. I think those look incredible, and we can get some really good look, close-up looks and stuff. Congratulations on what you're doing, man. I think you're extremely talented, and I'd be happy to have you share that on the TRC page too. I know a lot of people would love to see that. So definitely double thumbs up. Really cool stuff, man.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Big B, how about you?
Well, I've talked to Jared off, through Facebook. That's how we kind of met with some wrestlers that we both follow. He's got a figure of a guy we might have on next week or a couple weeks, Mr. Downtown PD Brown. Jared, I know you gave PD one of your action figures. What did he have to say to you when you gave it to him?
Oh man, he was pretty much hyped for it. He said thank you a lot and just that I did a great job and everything. And then after I asked him if he could take a picture with it, but he wanted to go one step further and make a whole video about it. So he made pretty much a half video about it, and it's on his YouTube channel from a few months ago. So yeah, he's really happy about it though.
Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures you posted. What are some of the reactions from the other guys that you've made figures with Sly and Mitch Paradise and some of the other ones. What have their reactions have been?
Yeah, with the Sly, I met him in person actually at the last BZ or the Below Zero Wrestling show, and yeah, he was just pretty much blown away by it, and he took like a few minutes just to look at it and see all the design and everything, and then afterwards we took a picture with it, and yeah, he was just really happy about it. So yeah, and the same with Mitch Paradise on the Facebook page, he liked it and everything. So because he has a Facebook group called his Mitch Paradise fan base, pretty much
Yep.
that one of his friends runs. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, Joe, I'm going to go to you. Do you have any questions for Jaron?
No, guys, I came in a little late on that one, so I'm just going to follow your guys' lead on this one.
All right. That sounds good. All right. So, Jaron, how complex is it to actually make these action figures? Like, how long does it actually take to make them?
I would say if I'm like consistently working on it, it would probably take at least I want to say at least 4 weeks or so.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. 'Cause there's a lot of, or I could go over the small planning process to get an in-depth about it, but if you want me to do that.
If you want to, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So basically, it starts out like I'll find pictures online of the gear and then the wrestler you want, and then pretty much I would say the hardest part about it is like the formula to use because I'm using WWE Mattel action figures, and obviously they don't have specific head scans for them or body types, so I have to pretty much do a little research lesson online and find the best head scan and the body type, and then I would say the head scan is probably the most crucial part of it because that head scans always make the action figure what it is. And yeah, from there, order the parts and then start painting. Sometimes I have to swap parts out for new parts and then just for like size differences and everything. And then from there, it's just painting it and then finishing it with a Mod Podge so it's all finalized. So. And then from there on to social media. So yeah.
All right. So I think we'll go around the room just one more time here. So Will, I'm going to go to you. Do you have any other comments or any questions for Jaron?
No, man. Like I said, just keep it up. Awesome job. Incredibly talented. Thank you very much for sharing, man. And like I said, post some pictures. I'd really like to see some good close-ups of that stuff. It looks like incredible work. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And then we'll go to Big B. Big B, any last things for you?
No, I just love every time he posts a picture of a figure and when he gets to meet the wrestler and has a picture with them because the guy, you can't tell it's a custom created. It looks like it's officially done. So you got definitely talent and a big. I'm trying to think. Going forward, you could probably make some decent money in these down the road, there, bud. So keep it up.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Joe. And since you kind of know what's going on a little bit now, do you have any questions for Jaron?
No, I zoomed in on his pictures there, and those action figures look absolutely amazing. I'm just blown away. He was using big words I couldn't even understand how he was creating those things, but awesome figures there. Now, like with the head scans, I mean, how do you do those? Do you just like get the mold of a figure and just kind of reshape it?
Pretty much. Yeah. Just I guess for example, like the PD Brown, I use a Ty Dillinger Mattel action figure from WWE, and then from there I just kind of had to take off part of the head or take off part of the hair around the head, and then paint it on some skin tone color, so like a light brown to make it look like that kind of the buzzed kind of look. And then from there, I trimmed off part of the hair around it, and then I believe, I trimmed off part of the beard too to give it that PD Brown look. So yeah, but every head scan pretty much depends on everything. So because with Mitch Paradise, I just sculpted
Just
a
building the
mohawk
figure that
and
you
then
get
a
in the.
goatee on, and then yeah.
All right. So before we let you go here, I do want to get one final thing from you. Where can people find these action figures when they go up for sale? Where can they find them at?
I've been posting it on my main Facebook profile of Jaron Peel, or I have a Facebook group called Minnesota or MN Custom Indie Wrestling Figures, and I usually post pictures on there. And then if I'm selling anything, and then if you just DM on the Facebook or message me on Facebook about it too, I usually get back, and then we can just start discussing stuff and prices and figure parts and everything. So yeah. And then I do have an Instagram too, the Phenomenal Figure. So I post a lot on there. A lot, pretty much is the same as Facebook. So yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
we want to thank you for hopping on, and please send us some pictures so we can post them on Coast to Coast. And if you can either send us some that we can send to Will, or send some to Will personally so he can post them too. Will, would you like him to send them to you personally, or
Either
Okay.
way, I'd be happy to share them and show them around. You know, I have 1,100 followers that are constantly buying wrestling memorabilia, so might be a little opportunity for you. I don't know.
Okay. Or do you think it's easier to if I share with Brandon or something, and then he's able to send it your guys' way, or?
Yeah, whatever you
That's-
man.
Yep, that's fine too. So we do want to thank you for hopping on here and giving us a little bit of your time. We look forward to those pictures. And so with that, we hope you have a fantastic night.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you, Jared. We'll
Thank
be
you,
in
guys.
touch.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, so we have a few comments that are in here in the comment
Uh-huh.
section. So Tyler Dove is saying, "Hey guys, he's a first-time viewer, so welcome in, Tyler." And then Ben Bowman is actually here saying, "What's up, guys? We are posted in the announcements on TRC." So thank you for that, Ben. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our first topic, which is we're going to break down, AEW Impact. And so I'm going to start with Joe on this one. So Joe, when you think about AEW from last week, what was your overall thoughts between Dynamite and Rampage?
Absolutely amazing. It blew my mind. Opening match, 30-minute draw, completely unexpected. I did, as we talked about last week, I didn't see that happening. So that was great. I think it sets up for a great little feud that's going to happen. I'm sure that's going to happen at Full Gear. And then leading into Rampage was very good. I was very surprised the men of the hour won. I was assuming that Jericho and them were going to win that one. So it's going to be interesting that they incorporate more MMA guys into that. So looking forward to this week, coming off of that big week last week. And it looks like the city of New York there, or Flushings, was excited about it with AEW. And they are looking at a return there.
All right, so with Joe talking about that like epic 30-minute draw that they had between Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega, Will, I'm going to go to you on this one because my question for you is I want to get your opinion on, do you think that was the right ending to the match and them having a 30-minute draw?
I don't think so, because now you've set up a high expectation for a pay-per-view, and then when you only go 20 minutes on a pay-per-view and you have a new champion, then you say, well, what was the difference? What happened there? So I think the original call that we made here talking was that there would be some interference or something that would cause an issue where the match was stopped. When you make them both unbeatable, you've set yourself up for, what do we do now? How do we make it better? What's next? And, it was a great match. It was a great wrestling match. And that's what those guys are. And they want to be known as wrestlers. But, again, and I've said this time and time again, when your draw is and your money comes from your pay-per-view buys, what's to make me go and buy this next pay-per-view that's going to be Kenny Omega versus Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him this week. And I've already seen the 30 minutes. So what 5 or 10 minutes can you add to that would make me spend 40 or 50 or 60 bucks, whatever it may be, for an AEW pay-per-view. It's a mistake. It's just not where it needs to be with writing. They have a great writing team. They have a great backstage team. And wrong call. Just my opinion, wrong call. And if Dragon Viper was here and he watched AEW, he'd say the same thing.
All right.
Oh,
so
who knows? He might say he liked it. So who knows?
All right. So Big B, what do you think? Do you think that was the right call in the 30-minute draw?
God, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it because, like we said, I mean, some interference is going to happen. The outcome, we weren't going to get a decisive winner, which we didn't. But now, like Will said, they're probably going to push it to a pay-per-view, and what's going to be intriguing that I'm going to want to spend the 50, 60 bucks on it, or go in on halves with a friend or something. That's going to change. I mean, yeah, they'll probably put the title on the line, but again, I've already seen the match. I mean, granted, AEW is putting out some great matches. We can't deny that. But yeah, I don't know what's going to change, but we'll see what's going on. But outside of that, I thought it was a great match. I mean, it was hard to decide who was going to win.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, Will. I enjoyed the match. I kind of knew it was going to be one of those really good matches because I know that both men are talented. But when I saw the ending of it, I'm like, man, you got to have a better ending than a 30-minute draw. I just thought you could have came up with something, maybe,
At least their top rope didn't break, right?
Right. No, I get what you're saying there. I'm just saying that I think they could have came up with something better because now it's definitely going to be hard to up that now because you went a full 30-minute on a draw. I don't know how you up that. Right. To be perfectly honest,
60-minute Iron Man match.
That would probably be it.
You would have to because I don't know how else you're going to do it. And yeah, I don't know. But Will, I'm going to go back to you and you tell me what was your other thoughts on Dynamite or Rampage?
So I think this was the key, and Joe over there looking at me, he probably won't agree with this, but I can just tell by the way he's looking at me. But I think the key is this to AEW. CM Punk was gone for 7+ years, came back to this major pop, everybody was CM Punk everything. People were eating ice creams, and they were selling the wrappers on eBay for $75, and then CM Punk was out on TV. And the crowd was kind of quiet because now they've seen it. Now he's there. He's back. And the big hype and the big boom and the, oh, wow, it's CM Punk kind of faded really fast. And that's scary because if it faded that fast for him, his whole thing with WWE back in 2014 was he was mad that he didn't go over in the Royal Rumble. He was mad that people were coming back and working part-time and taking main event spots and doing all these different things. And, he was mad about all that. He was upset about it. Now, all of a sudden, if he starts losing that major pop and that major, yay, it's CM Punk, then I think in the next, 12 months or so, you may see another goodbye to CM Punk. So, I know that's far-fetched. I know that's out there. But if you watch and you pay attention to that crowd compared to 4 weeks ago, and compared to this week, there was no pop. They were more excited about Daniel Bryan. They were more excited about Kenny Omega, who's been there basically every week, than they were CM Punk. So definitely some storylining needs to happen there very quickly. And they're going to have to do something to draw those fans back in, or they're going to lose money fast.
All right. So other than that, though, Will, did you have anything else for either Dynamite or Rampage? No.
Because I think those are the two main things. I think everything else was pretty much basic. Great wrestling matches, a lot of great performances. Watching Dean Ambrose or Moxley at the end. That guy's going to go out there and put on a show every night. He's truly talented, truly incredible. He was probably the standout star of the week outside of Omega and Bryan. But, man, what stuck with me this week was CM Punk. And again, I hate to beat a horse, but man, I was really shocked and really kind of saddened by that. That's what
less is more.
Yeah, well, I think it's because, they keep bringing in all this new talent. And so because all this new talent is coming in, they go, oh, this is a guy fresh out of WWE. He was big there, and now he's here. So now we're going to take all these older guys. Yeah, they might, some of them might still be fresh, but they're like, let's put them on the wayside. Now we have this person. They're brand new. So now I'm going to really lock in on them. I mean, you have Adam Cole. That they were going crazy for Adam Cole. They were going crazy for Bryan Danielson. So you have a lot of these fresh guys that are coming in that the fans are loving more now and throwing everybody else on the wayside.
Yeah. So in December of 94, the Macho Man Randy Savage made a surprise appearance on Saturday Night Wrestling, WCW Saturday Night Wrestling, which no one knew was going to happen. It was totally unexpected. Even Vince McMahon at the time didn't know it was going to happen because following Raw, he said, good luck, Macho Man. Thank you for everything you ever did. He had no idea it was going to happen. And he went there, and it was huge, and it was fresh, and everybody was behind the Macho Man like never, ever before. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, here comes another WWF guy, and then here comes another guy, and another guy. And then, of course, 12 months after that or 9 months after that, you had the NWO come in, and so the point being is it's super, super cool, but if they don't slow it down, it's a long-winded business. It's a long haul. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we don't need CM Punk last week, Daniel Bryan next week. We don't need Bray Wyatt tomorrow. We don't need all that. There's time. There's places. There's there's an art to placing a brand new talent inside of wrestling and just pushing everybody out there as fast as you can. Yes, your overall company is valued higher, 400 million plus or whatever with AEW, and that's awesome. But, at some point, if you don't slow it down, it's not that exciting anymore. And it's not that cool anymore. And I think, and this may be unpopular, I think Vince McMahon knows that. And as he's releasing these guys and lowering his cost or lowering his salary, his profit's going up because he's paying out less and he's bringing in more money. And, you notice Vince doesn't seem very concerned about any of this because they're doing exactly what WCW did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people are now starting to actually compare AEW to WCW and saying, should this be concerning? Should AEW be looking at this being like, okay, do we need to slow this down because we are going in the direction of WCW to where we know eventually WCW folded because of everything that they were attempting to do and tried to grow too fast. And so
can I make one more point and I'll be quick, I promise you. but one of my favorite 3-disc DVDs on my set, I've got about 200 wrestling DVDs. One of my favorite DVDs, you know what it is?
The fall of WCW?
The rise and fall of WCW. And if you watch, and if they don't slow down and they don't stop, guys, I've been watching it for 30 plus years. Mm-hmm. It's time to slow down. It's time to make the show with what they have. There's going to be a rise and fall of AEW DVD in the next 10 years.
Yep.
Which, that could actually segue us into, Impact Wrestling now too, because, you got to think they had the rise of TNA when it first started, and then it had that epic collapse over time. Like it was going from different owner to different owner to different owner. And I know right now there are some names that are kind of starting to come back and appear now that, just think Christopher Daniels just appeared again too. And so that is kind of a big name too. So, Big B, I'll start with you on this. Impact this week, what'd you happen to think of that? Like, especially Christopher Daniels coming back.
Yeah, that was overall, that was probably an exciting, thing. I didn't catch too much of Impact, but hearing that Daniel showed up, I mean, that was one of the, I guess finding fathers of that Impact. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to me, I'm still shocked that we're talking Impact being around because, like you said, Ace, they've been over ownerships, and Vince has been reported to bail them out a few times, so he can use some of their stars. So he's bought them. But yeah, Daniel's back to Impact. I think it was a big shocker. I know Christian's over there a little bit because he's the champ. Mm-hmm. They got some decent talent over there, but to touch on what Will said, he's dead on with AEW. They need to slow it down, CM Punk got that big pop at home, and now they're using him every week, or he's on TV every week, and he's kind of died out. There's rumors Wyatt's going to show up tomorrow, probably to a huge pop, and we'll see where that goes. But I'm with Will 100%. If AEW doesn't slow down, it's gonna be a DVD fall and rise of AEW. So
And it sucks. And it sucks. And it sucks.
Yeah.
The thing is, how easy is it? And I understand, guys, we're Monday morning or Tuesday nighting quarterbacking, but history repeats itself in the wrestling business, and it always has, and it always will, because that's the nature of the beast.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, so Joe, I'm going to go to you on this one for on the Impact side quick. So think about Christian's next opponent, okay, and think about how he relinquished his X Division title. What do you think of this match? Do you think Christian Cage is going to drop the title now?
It's funny because Will and I just had that conversation Saturday in the parking lot.
Okay.
I don't know, because I asked him the same thing, exactly like you asked me, and I'll let him give you an answer to that because I've thought about it since then. I don't know. It's a toss-up for me. Could I see it happening? Yeah. Could I see it not happening? Yeah. I mean, it's too early to tell at this moment. I want to kind of see the build-up on it a little bit more, see where they're going to go with it.
Yeah, and I feel like Christian, I don't know, to me, I felt like Christian hasn't had a long enough run. So that's the only reason why I'm saying I could see him actually retaining the title, because he hasn't had a long enough run. But, Will, it sounds like Joe wanted you to give your answer on this, on what you think. So what do you think?
Well, Christian's incredible. He's an incredible talent. And I think the biggest thing with him is his whole goal right now is to put people over and to make stars. And I definitely think he's going to drop that belt. That's what he's there for. And then you're going to see it go from the next guy to the next guy to the next guy. But he's there to develop talent. And the man is extremely intelligent. When you're working in AEW and drawing a paycheck, and you're working in Impact and drawing a paycheck, I just had this conversation, like you said, Saturday. That's the same thing Braun Strowman should be doing. He should be working, honing his craft in Impact, and then on the side, basically working for AEW. He's drawing 2 checks. The man's extremely intelligent. Jay Riso is extremely intelligent. He knows the business. He's a behind the stage guy, backstage guy, helping to develop talent. And he came in during that time and that era where wrestling was still considered wrestling. And you talk about just an incredible overall talent. He's going to drop that belt, but he's going to drop it in a fashion where he truly builds somebody, not just to drop the title.
And that is one thing that I'll tell you I did not know, and so I'm kind of glad you mentioned that. I actually did not know that if you wrestle for AEW and Impact, that you get 2 separate checks. I thought because they work together, I thought that you got one, because I thought they had like a working relationship.
Okay, but think about it, right? So if I'm working a AEW contract, right? So I'm getting concessions, or I'm getting money for my T-shirt sales, and I'm getting money for my pay-per-view appearances, and they all get a percent of pay-per-view buys and everything else. Now I'm over an Impact. There's no way I'm going to work their pay-per-view and I'm not going to take a piece of their pay-per-view sales. There's no way they're going to sell my shirt and my image, because that's the way of the world now, and not cut me, some money for the shirts, or some money for the program, or some money for the souvenir cups, or whatever it may be, the poster that has my image on it, or my autograph that they sold. So you're talking a lot of different ways that these guys are drawing money. And a lot of these guys who are making, let's call it $1 million. Let's call it $1 million in WWE. They were making $1 million minus travel expenses, but then they would get, their money for, figures, and they would get their money for T-shirts and all that stuff. So they were making maybe $1 million, $1.5 million, right? Now they're over here in AEW, say they're making $750, but they're working half the schedule. Then they're working 1 night a week, or 2 nights a month, or whatever in Impact. Now they're drawing a check over there too. So it's just like, somebody back in the 1950s that cut a song, and, all of a sudden that song becomes popular in a movie. Guess what happens? They get royalties. They get paid. You know, and Greg Valentine said this best. I don't know if you guys ever seen this or ever heard this, but Greg Valentine said this best. Vince McMahon was a marketing genius when it came to things like action figures and stuff, because Greg Valentine just a couple years ago released an action figure in the WWE Legends line, and is still getting paid on that. And when Greg Valentine, they asked him about, hey, you know, what do you think about this stuff? And he said, I think Vince McMahon's a marketing genius. I still get royalty checks off WWF Hasbro's, and they haven't sold Hasbro since like 1994.
That's great.
Yeah.
Saw that or ever heard it, but that's a true story.
Wow. That's
Well, Ric Flair
That's
even said the
incredible.
same thing too about that. You know, that the Horsemen and them could have made a whole bunch of money if NWA would have marketed action figures back in that LJN line. Instead, WWE started it, and Flair said they probably could have lost out on millions of dollars, because who wouldn't have won a Horseman action figure back in the late 80s, you know?
Especially the original 4. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah.
Talk about how much money those things would be worth nowadays.
Ooh.
Holy cow.
Did you know that most people can't tell you who the original 4 were?
It's
Wasn't it
Uh-oh, Big B sat and I have to think there for a second.
it's
I am.
Flair,
What do you mean?
Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, and I want
Barry
to say
Windham,
Blanchard.
no?
No, it's Wyndham.
Yeah, it's Barry Windham, right?
Yeah.
No.
No, it's
Ooh.
not.
Who's
They're
the
all
original?
working in AEW pretty much. You
Think
just
about-
missed out on one. You guys missed out on Tully.
Oh,
It was Tully. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay.
Tully, JJ, Ole, and
Mhm.
Arn, Flair.
Do you know what happened?
Tully. That's right. It
And
was
it's
Tully.
on our history lesson time, so I won't go into it. I don't want to kill any more time, but
Right.
we'll do that for another week, though.
All right.
Yeah,
Horseman.
that'll definitely be for another week. So, since we're kind of getting there on time, we're going to jump into our next topic, because I know this has kind of been a big topic that we've wanted to talk about, and this is the dark side of the ring of Canyon. And I know, Will, you felt very strongly about this one, and I know you said that your opinion on this one may not be the most popular. So because of that, I think we're very excited to hear what you have to say. So go ahead and kick this off for us on the dark side of the ring.
Absolutely. So, you know, I watched it and I watched it again, and I looked back. So a couple major points, and then we'll go right into it really fast. John Cena worked for Vince McMahon. John Cena protected his boss. John Cena made comments that aligned with WWE's values and WWE's site at the time when he was on the Howard Stern show. The Howard Stern show is, again, like I talked about before, for entertainment purposes, and it's one of the nastiest, most raunchy shows out there. So the more nasty they could all get, the better they like the show, the better people like the show. So, you know, the comment that Canyon wasn't a very good wrestler was a comment made to protect the business that John Cena worked for, and people calling to cancel John Cena. You know, it's like anybody that works for any company. If the company does something that could be construed as, you know, inappropriate or wrong or whatever, and you're a dedicated employee who at the time was making millions of dollars, was a world champion at the time, you're going to do what you have to do to protect your investment and yourself. And that's where the John Cena comments, I think, came from. I don't think John Cena legit has any issue one way or another with Canyon, because I think they're on two totally different levels. Canyon was an incredible in-ring performer. He could have been a multi-time world champion. He had the body, he had the talent, and he had the manager to speak for him, because he wasn't a very good talker, believe it or not. You know, I mean, he had his little shtick with who's better than Canyon, but he wasn't a good talker, but he had a great manager. But if you watch and you listen to the things after the match and in the hotel rooms and everything else, and the guy would invite you to his house and then stay in bed for 7 or 8 days at a time. He was clearly very, very sick, and no one knew what to do. No one knew how to help him, because at that time in the world itself, people didn't know how to get you help when you needed it. He was clearly a schizophrenic. He was clearly mentally, depressed, manic depressive, obviously, and not medicating properly, which caused him to do things. You know, one of the other points in the episode was he talked about, you know, and I know exactly where this at, and Joe does too, the Scientology building in Clearwater, where he wanted to go and break into the Scientology building to see the aliens that they were holding there. You know, if you've never seen the Scientology building in Clearwater, then you wouldn't really understand it. But if you Google it and you look it up, it's incredible. And there's constantly hundreds and hundreds of people walking streets that are going back and forth from different meetings on Scientology. And there would be no way to get into that building. You could be Spider-Man and could not get in that building 24 hours a day. It literally sits right next to the Pinellas County, Florida courthouse and the sheriff's department. And you would be shot down long before you ever even got to the door. Trust me. It would be like trying to get across the fence at the White House. So it's not possible. So what those guys did by tying him up and preventing him from doing that, and Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Joe knows where it's at. They saved his life at that point because he would have been killed, no doubt. And the guy obviously had some major problems with alcohol. He's had some major problems with drugs. And I covered this before too. Drugs and alcohol are depressants. And when you already have a depression issue that clearly isn't being handled properly through a doctor, the guy should have been in a mental hospital. They could have saved him. They could have fixed it. But they didn't. And no one knew what to do. And back then, it wasn't cool for men to cry. It wasn't cool for men to be depressed. And, his manager said at one point, what do you have to be depressed about? You have everything in the world. You have everything going for you. And he says, you don't know what it's like to be me. So dealing with depression is like a constant pain that you can't make go away on the inside. And that's exactly what he was dealing with. And no comment about him or his performances or anything else was going to do anything whatsoever to push him over the edge. It may have upset him. It may have made him mad. But he made comments, right prior to that were so inappropriate that you couldn't let children listen to. I wouldn't let my wife listen to it. If you go back and watch some of those episodes in there. So there's a lot of different things. The good things that came out of that episode, brand new found respect for Brian Cage. The guy, incredible talker. Much more respect for the Young Bucks, who I'm not really a fan of and never have been, but a lot of respect there. And the thoughts that his own best friend had to purchase a handgun and plan to use it to shoot and kill him to keep Canyon from accidentally killing him, that speaks volumes. And that's the takeaways for me for that episode. And I think if anybody else got something different, and wants to cancel Ric Flair again because of what he said, everybody in the wrestling business and in the wrestling world to Ric Flair is not as good as him because he believes the hype about himself when they say he's the greatest of all time. And it's hard to argue. It's a hard point to argue. But those things that were said, they may have upset him. That's not what caused any problems. He had major problems. He was a ticking time bomb, and no one knew how to help him.
All right, so the one thing I will say about one of the comments, especially how you're talking about John Cena, I think that it surprised me how many people were actually coming out wanting to cancel John Cena because of the comments that he made. And I'm like, was his comments really that bad to where he should have been canceled? But Joe, I'm going to jump to you on this one. Will just said his take on this episode. Nice picture going there. Number one, I'll start out with for you, Joe. Do you think that John Cena's words were that bad to where people should be talking about how he should be canceled? And what was your thoughts on this episode of Dark Side of the Ring?
No, his comments were nearly as no. I mean, his comments weren't bad at all. I mean, I've seen worse comments out there, for this. I almost forgot that him and Canyon crossed paths. So it must have been very early in Cena's career there in WWE, and Canyon must have been on his way out because I almost forgot it. So I have to still go back and look and see when that happened. But, Cena was, like William said, Cena was protecting the business or protecting the company that he worked for. So those comments to me were not, were not wrong. They were mild. And even what Ric Flair said was, it's a different time and period. Ric Flair grew up differently. So those things that Flair said, he felt it, and there's videos out there on YouTube and stuff like that of that whole entire conversation. It was on the Howard Stern show. And, Howard Stern's just like anybody else. He's a disc jockey that likes ratings, and he's going to, have controversy and things like that. Like Eric Bischoff says, controversy creates cash. Bubba the Love Sponge has done the same thing, and Mancow and all those guys. I mean, that's what Shock Jock's all about. But this episode was really good. And it's a shame because, those guys are dealing with things that we don't deal with, and it's true. If Canyon was coming to me and says, you don't know what's going on in my head, I'd be absolutely right. I mean, or he'd be absolutely, I don't know. I don't have to deal with those things, fortunately, but there's people out there that does. All I can do as a friend or a colleague or something like that is try to help and get them help, but if you don't know, you can't do it. And unfortunately, he was in a situation where he could tell people because of the way professional wrestling was looked upon at that time. If you were anything other than straight and things like that, your career could have very well been career suicide. Now, if Canyon was alive and well and in his prime today, it'd be a whole different story. He'd probably be a great character. I mean, he did invent a lot of moves or do things that we see nowadays. When watching Brian Cage, when they were showing his moves were suplexing off the rope and things like that, I'm like, I forgot that was all Canyon's moves at one point, So it's nice to see that those guys are still keeping his image alive. But, James Mitchell said it best, if people need help, there's places out there to get help, Don't be afraid to ask for help. And that's what we need to think about is we see a lot of it nowadays. These guys have taken a lot of chair shots to the heads and things like that, especially and I agree, I don't think the WWE with the Boy George thing was as a disrespect to him, but Undertaker did give him a little stiff chair shot in the head there. So it's unfortunate, but I thought this was probably one of the better episodes. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to Brian Cage and the Bucks, and even Luke Hawk in there talking about his friend.
All right, so before we go to you, Big B, I do want to say I was just informed that people are commenting, but for some reason they're not coming up on StreamYard. So because of that, I'm sorry, we're having some tech issues on that side of StreamYard to where we're not seeing your comments. But we're glad you're here and watching the show, and we would interact with you if we could see the comments. So hang in there, and maybe we'll be able to see them later. Or if we can't, then obviously, we'd love to see you back next week to drop some more comments there. But Big B, we'll go ahead.
And one more thing about that Scientology place is, that Scientology place is probably like 8 or 9, 10 blocks long. I mean, they've got everything humanly possible there. It's like their own little community of people, of what they do. I know people that's work inside those buildings, and they're very tight-lipped on what they do and things like that. So yeah, if Canyon would have went down there, this Dark Side of the Ring story would have been a whole different Dark Side of the Ring story.
Yeah.
All right, so Big B, I'm going to go to you. What was your thoughts on this Dark Side of the Ring?
Man, I think those two said it the best. I mean, it was just, I like watching these shows and seeing the behind the characters. I mean, I know it's not wrestling company driven like WWE and stuff, but I still enjoy them. I don't know how they put on these productions without WWE stepping in as much, but I definitely enjoy watching it. This one, I learned a lot about Canyon. Yeah, I thought he was a great performer too with Mortis and that character that he did. And even when he went out on his own and became Chris Canyon, I think he could have been a superstar. I don't know why Vince didn't or what went wrong there. I know there was a comment, and I'm still trying to figure out how they figured that the NWO killed the Mortis character. But I'll have to rewatch it. Maybe something will click, or maybe Will has an idea what they mean by that. But
because they took up so much time on the pay-per-views in '97 that every other match was an NWO member.
Okay.
And a member was in the match. So there was a lot of events where Canyon probably would have wrestled or would have had a match, whether in mid-card or tag titles or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But instead, you had, like 30 something people join the NWO at one point, and they just dominated the entire card when you only have 8 or 9
that makes sense.
cards. So
yeah, that definitely makes sense.
And the NWO came more real at that time too, so they started doing away with fake characters, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So
which was
that kind of clears up that. But outside of that,
that was a mistake to do away with the characters. That's horrible.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. That the character were by far the best thing. I mean, have a real name or a real person here and there, but the character I think really was wrestling. But for Canyon, to do what he did in the ring and then be like a totally different person in the hotel, as was explained. I'm with Will. I got more respect for Brian Cage and the Young Bucks for what they said. I think it was Matt that said he got a call right before he jumped in the shower and sat there and talked to him for who knows how long to talk him out of doing what he wanted to do. And they both cried. And, I hope to never have to face that with a close friend of mine, but I definitely will be there for them. I won't hang up on them. But yeah, I got more respect for those guys and can't wait to see what other episodes they put out. But this Canyon one I thought was pretty good.
All right, so before we jump into our next topic, is there any final thoughts from anybody on the on the Canyon Dark Side of the Ring?
No.
Nope. All right. So the next topic that I want to jump into obviously is about rumors. So the one rumor that I kind of want to see how you guys are feeling about right now is we know the one rumor that's really swirling around right now is that the Cult of Wyndham, the whole Wyndham thing, that Bray Wyatt is supposed to be appearing tomorrow in AEW. So, Will, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that Bray Wyatt shows up at AEW tomorrow?
No. No, I don't. No,
okay.
Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. Because, you're going to lose that shock factor. You're going to lose that value. And it's just like 2017, the Hardys come back at WrestleMania 33 to win the tag titles. How exciting was that match? How exciting was that introduction? You got Bray Wyatt, who's the hottest thing in wrestling. He was the hottest thing in wrestling when he lost at WrestleMania 37. Everybody was shocked. Nobody knew why. Nobody understood why. Then you didn't see him on TV again. So if you're just going to bring him out on a Wednesday night, you're just, again, you're going to devalue the product. You need to bring him in at the opportune time. There needs to be a little bit of a slowdown. You can have the man signed to a contract. You can have the man working for you. You can have him backstage. You can do whatever. But when it comes time to actually have his introduction, it needs to be that shock factor. And if it's already rumored and popping up everywhere that he's going to be, possibly appearing tomorrow, if I was the AEW writers right now, I'd be like, nope. We're going to run some commercials during that time segment. There ain't no put him out there. But I would wait so nobody expected it, and I would call him up on a Friday night and say, hey, man, we got a pay-per-view tomorrow. I need you to pop up. I need you to wear a hoodie. I need you to wear a mask. I don't care what you do, but I don't want anybody to know it's you. And I need you to meet me at X location at X time, and we're going to hide you, and it's going to be a major, major factor. That's my opinion.
All right, Joe, I'm going to go to you. What do you think? Do you think he shows up tomorrow?
No, but I will say this. Bray lives in the county right next door to Will and I.
Yep.
Really? So does Bo and Liv. Yes.
Yeah, we live in the same town.
I will say that the Cult of Wyndham looks very, very good. He's very healthy. He's in tremendous shape. But I don't think he shows up tomorrow. I think he might still be under that 90 days too, guys. There's a room, it's floating around that he still is or he's not, so we don't really know. I don't think he shows, but you might start to tease maybe start showing some vintage, let's go old school. Let's start showing some promos or, things like that. Let's build it up a little bit.
Vignettes.
Yeah, vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Let's go old school a little bit. I don't think he shows up. I think they do something special for Brody tomorrow night. Maybe something that we don't know about yet, but I think being at his hometown, that they do something for him. But no, I don't think he shows up yet. But the
Or-
vignettes start to roll.
Or he could surprise some people, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying, or he could surprise some people and possibly end up re-signing with WWE. I don't know. I'm just saying it could be a possibility because
Which he did tease that during the pay-per-view, that he was making comments about, here I come, Seth, or watch out, I'm next, or stuff like that. So
yeah.
Oh,
so
he's making his presence very well known right now.
yeah, so nobody exactly knows where he's going yet. I know in a group I'm in on Facebook, somebody left a comment that said they have sources, and
Yeah.
so their
I have a source
sources.
too.
So their sources said that he rejected a contract from Impact Wrestling. So whether it happened or not, I don't know. But Big B, what do you think? Do you think he shows up tomorrow?
I think he does, but I think I'm on the side of Will that they need to slow down. They need to push it off. Will and Joe, you can probably agree with me. I think the internet websites and stuff are just killing all these big surprises and stuff. And it's because, like we said, we knew CM Punk was going to show up. We knew Daniel Bryan was going to show up. When Hardy showed up, we kind of had an inkling that they were in the neighborhood, but didn't know they were going to show up until they did. I mean, the biggest guy that returned that I was 100% shocked on was Shane McMahon when he returned during that little ceremony for Steph back, 5 years ago or so. So I think he does. I think the clause ends end of September, so that's tomorrow. Or no, I'm sorry. I think it ended within the last couple of days. But if he does it, then I think it's best that we push him off until a pay-per-view where he can make a bigger splash and go old school and start teasing it a little bit, maybe even have a black figure, like you said, or a guy in the crowd that's just wearing a hoodie that, kind of like the Masked Singer. We don't know who it is, and, it's sitting front row or something every so often. But I think he is. I'd say 70% sure that he'll show up tomorrow.
Well, AEW just signed 2 more superstars today, but I bet nobody really paid attention to that,
Oh, no. Who they signed?
Kiera Hogan was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
She was announced last night on Dark, and then somebody from overseas that
Okay.
I can't even pronounce the name. I would butcher it, so I won't even try. But
Well, that's the whole thing is that they're probably signing a lot of these young, unknown talents that we don't see, and we're all focused on the big guys, But I think we said it that they just need to slow down a little bit, or else they're gonna be folding.
Yeah, and I'm definitely 50-50 on this one on whether he shows up tomorrow. And the only reason is the reason I could see him doing it is because of Brody Lee. That's the reason why I could see him debuting tomorrow. But yet again, I could also see them putting it off until a bigger pay-per-view to make it more of a shock factor. But so
November 13th here in Minnesota sounds fine with me.
I don't know. So right now, I'm still sitting at 50-50. I'm not quite sure on that. But since we're running low on time, I'm going to try and push forward just a little bit more here. So the next thing that we're going to do is just really quick, if we want to give like a what if discussion here. So Will, I'll start with you. What if? So you have the first what if.
So what if, and I thought about this one quite a bit, what if WrestleMania 30 remained all about Daniel Bryan and, they called it Daniel Mania. So what if The Undertaker doesn't lose to Brock at WrestleMania 30? Who does he go on to lose to at WrestleMania?
Ooh, wow.
I would say my personal opinion, I think, is that his first loss would have been to Reigns.
Yeah.
Because he did lose the reins, and I think that probably would have been his first loss. But I don't think that it shouldn't have been Lesnar. I always, in my mind, I think that the person that should have ended the streak, and you can disagree on this, but I actually think it should have been Kane because of the excellent connection that they had. It definitely should have been Kane. I
like
Joe?
that one.
Joe, how about you? What is your what if?
No, I'm still going off that WrestleMania one.
Okay.
I like that one. I don't know if it should have been Kane though. I think if anybody would have lost to the Undertaker should have put somebody over, or WWE should have. Would have been like their next future guy. But Reigns was already on that way. So could have been a Drew. He should maybe lost to Drew McIntyre or something down the road. But I mean, by that point, Undertaker was barely mobile. So we're lucky that we got what we got out of it. We should have got a Sting and Undertaker WrestleMania match. What if on that one?
Oh, what if? Oh, there you go.
Oh.
What if match? Sting and Undertaker.
I mean, we know that they've wrestled in WCW as Mean Mark and all that, but what if you had the Undertaker character
The icon.
and a what if Sting in their prime who takes it at a WrestleMania?
That's a big what if. Yeah.
That would have been a great match, though. I'm telling you, I think that would have been a huge draw. People would have really enjoyed that one. So, Big B, go to you. What is your what if?
Before I give my what if, but I would say it would have to have been White if they could have lasted that long. But my what if kind of goes to Will's WrestleMania. What if Vince Sr. stuck to his guns and did not let Vince Jr. Start this whole WrestleMania phenomenon and kept it? Because I mean, it's been reported that Vince Sr. was not for it and kind of gave in. So what if Vince Sr. did not give in? What kind of pay-per-view, if any, or what kind of wrestling will we have now? So, what do you guys think?
I didn't catch all that, Mike. I got kicked off the site.
What if Vince Sr. would have kept to his guns and didn't allow Vince Jr. to start the whole WrestleMania, phenomenon?
Well, Vince Sr. did not know about the WrestleMania phenomenon.
I thought I've heard that Vince threw it by him and he kept turning them down and then finally gave in to him.
I think what you're referring to, because Vince Sr. was long passed away before that. I think what you're referring to is Vince wanted one global company. It is more what Big B is talking about than a wrestling concept. And Vince Sr. wanted it to remain territories, is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I think,
I guess I misheard. I thought it was about WrestleMania.
Well, more about global company. So because Vince Sr. was long passed away before that. Because if you listen to Vince talk about even WrestleMania 3, he said he could feel the presence of his father being there, and all he could do was tear up and think about his dad. But in reality, his father never wanted it to be outside of territories, because territories was what worked in wrestling, and you could basically you could treat a wrestler like a circus animal, and you could work them until they couldn't draw one more dollar, and then when you were done with them, you let them go, and they moved on to the next town across the country, and those people in that town hadn't seen them in a while or hadn't seen them ever, and they drew even more money. And that was Vince Sr.'s philosophy.
Okay, well, thanks for the correction. I thought it was all based on WrestleMania. So yeah, okay, so.
And in the interest of time, we can actually call that my history lesson for tonight, and I'll save mine for next week, if that's okay, Ace.
Yep, that is completely fine. So
thank you for the correction, Will.
So just the final thing that we'll do before we give our final roundup here is that my what if is, what if Rey Mysterio actually doesn't win the WWE championship? Would littler guys like Daniel Bryan or CM Punk been put over to win the title if Rey Mysterio does not?
Yes. Yeah, because I think it was my turn, right? Sorry.
You're good.
Because you had guys that were basically the same weight as Rey. In Shawn Michaels, you had Bret Hart, basically the same weight as Rey Mysterio. You're all within 15, 20 pounds of each other. So you've already gone to that concept in the new generation, and you fast forward 10 years. It's only 10 years difference between when Shawn wins the WWF Championship to when Rey Mysterio wins the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. So even though it may seem like a major company difference and a major difference in time, it's only a 10-year time span. So I absolutely think you still see the smaller guys, and I don't think that's anywhere near the big breakthrough that they've had with some of the other things they've done with belts. But I definitely think you see the Miz, who's another smaller guy. Miz is not a big guy at all. I think you see him in 2010, 2011 win the WWE Championship and go on and do things like that. And one more small little tiny point, that belt that Ray won was considered the WWE World Heavyweight Championship brought into Raw in 2002, which we all know was a remade version of the WCW title, which in their mind, and this is a very sad point, but in their mind at the time in the company, that belt had already been so tarnished over time by putting it on guys like DDP, who was a tremendous worker, but wasn't very well respected by a lot of people. He was respected by wrestlers. He was loved by fans, but wasn't really thought of as what a wrestler or a sports entertainer should be. It was tarnished when David Arquette won it and held it. It was tarnished when you had guys like Jeff Jarrett, who barely were Intercontinental champions, barely were tag team champions, and that was on almost like we're going to do you a favor. And, Jeff Jarrett was world heavyweight champion. Booker T, who no one thought would be world champion, had worn that belt. Scott Steiner worn that belt. Scott Steiner was a tag champ at absolute best in WWF days in 92, 93, 94 era of WWF. So again, that belt was so tarnished. I think when they first brought it in, they brought it in just to try to build the Triple H character further. Triple H had already been the WWE champion or WWF champion at the time with the big gold Attitude Era belt, but they wanted to make sure they kept the belt on him because some wrestlers needed a belt to make the wrestler. Other wrestlers could make the belt because of their character and who they were. And I think that the thought process was, this belt is so tarnished, it didn't matter who won that belt. And they loved Eddie so much that they were going to do anything and everything they could to honor Eddie. And what better way than having Ray win it? And, not only that, but for a whole culture of people, the Latino fans of wrestling in the Cologne territories and stuff like that are some of the most dedicated and loyal fans. Those fans literally would try to kill wrestlers that competed with their heroes. When they competed with Carlos Colon, ask, or you can't ask, but go back and look at some documentaries on Roddy Piper when he went down into the Cologne territories. They stabbed him. I mean, that's how dedicated and committed those fans are. So, again, having wrestlers like Rey Mysterio, Alberto Del Rio also held that World Heavyweight Championship. I think at that point they thought anybody could hold this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your opinion on that one. But we're at that time now. So just really quick, we're going to go around the room, give any final thoughts. So Big B, I'll start with you. Any final remaining thoughts before we go ahead and call it?
Nah, thanks for joining, Jaron. Thanks for coming in and showing us your collection. Sorry that we could not see the comment, guys. I know there was a lot coming through. Hopefully we get that issue fixed before next episode. Next week, we kind of touched on it last week, is the 20th will of Brian Pillman's passing.
23rd, right?
23rd, something like that. So might do a little Brian Pillman talk next week. And I am working on another indie wrestler. Hopefully I can get confirmation that he'll be on next week with us. So without that, hope to see you guys all next Tuesday.
All right, Joe, any final thoughts?
No, I think I need a custom Mortis figure now. So I wish they would make one. I hopefully they do. And now we got the Owen Heartline coming, so hopefully we get a Mortis figure down the road at some point. If not, I know where to go to for it.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, Will, any final remaining thoughts?
Yeah, real quick. So final remaining thought, because I could talk all night with wrestling. Dark Side of the Ring is an entertainment program. If it wasn't exciting, if there wasn't more to the story, if they weren't digging deep, it wouldn't be worth watching. If they sat on there and talked about how Canyon chewed bubble gum, everybody would be like, what is this garbage, and turn the channel. A lot of that stuff they're doing is National Enquirer type stuff, and a lot of it is speculation. And not just that episode, but a lot of the other episodes too. In my opinion, the best episode just my opinion, that they've released so far was the episode about Jake the Snake Roberts, and I hope at some point soon we get to go back and kind of discuss that, because that's one that we, skipped right on by. It happened before we started our episodes here. And if you want to watch something that's really, really good and it's historical, go and pick yourself up a copy of the biographies. This was that 8 segments that they did on A&E. I bought both the volume 1 and volume 2, and the history factor there for a long-term wrestling fan. I've been watching and involved. I've been involved for 20 plus years, but I've been watching for 30 plus years, and the history there, just the stuff that you remember, man, I think I only paid $9.96 for these DVDs, and they're absolutely tremendous. So I would highly recommend you watching them. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't make a penny off of it. I'm just saying it for a fan. So other than that, huge shout out to Coast to Coast, Entertainment Network. Super excited. I'm sorry we got a little long winded this week, but we'll try to get all the good stuff back in next week too. And then huge shout out to my folks back over there, Top Rope Collectibles. Everybody there, thank you for everything that you're doing. We sincerely appreciate you. And huge shout out to Dragon Viper and Crispy Bacon. I'm a big Dragon Viper fan. We have a lot of the same or similar opinions. And thank you to Crispy Bacon for all the stuff that he does for their shows and stuff. So that's all I got. Ace.
All right. So thank you guys for hopping on. It was another great episode. So everybody, you can catch us again next Tuesday night for another show of Tuesday Night Mania. And tomorrow, catch us on another episode of Sports Minute. So with that, everybody have a fantastic night, and thank you for watching.